23rd is the DEI Advisory Committee. We'll start with attendance. Oh, sorry, go around the room, say who's here. Oh. Sally, we'll start with you.
Sally Davidson, Equity, Belonging, and Community Engagement Coordinator.
Erin Earl, School Committee Chair.
Mary Lowe Presti, Parent Advocate.
Holly Ishmarer, Community Member.
Jennifer Lima, School Committee Member.
Victoria Cormier, 11th grader at NK.
Will Moss, 11th grader at NK.
Will, can I get a piece of paper, please? I did not bring my notebook. Student. Thank you. Okay, awesome. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, awesome. So one of the first things that I wanted to talk about was just give an update on where we're at with the district's budget overall. So for those of you who don't know, the way that the budget process works in the town, and Erin, jump in if I get this wrong, is the school committee works with the superintendent from a period of a couple months to go through and set a budget that works to support everything that the district needs to keep it running. And once the school committee approves the budget, it has to go to the town for the town to approve it, because the town gives us a portion of our funding that we need to run the schools. And so it goes to the town manager presents a budget to the town council, and then the town council votes on it. So the town can decide whether or not to give the schools the money that they ask for, or whether to give more, or whether to give less. So this year, since we approved our budget, we've had a couple things come up that have been a little unusual. The first is that the town council has preliminarily approved to give us less money than we asked for. And since we approved our budget, we've gotten word from the people that we use for transportation outside of the district, the company that services students who go to school out of district, or who need services who for our displaced and unhoused students, and what else is it? Out of district, unhoused,
Out of districts.
and special ed.
Special ed,
Yeah. They have had a big rate increase since we had the information that we based our budget on. And the other thing is that the health and dental insurance went up by a lot as well. So all told, it was $285,000 additional for health and dental over and above what we budgeted, and about $207,000 for transportation over and above what we budgeted. And then the town, the number that they have preliminarily approved to give us is $110,000 less than what we asked for. So we're looking at potentially a 602 deficit. So that would be, we're hoping that we can work with the town to find a way to bridge that number and make it go away. But if it doesn't, that means that we need to look within our budget and find ways to make up that $600,000, because these are contractual things that we can't not do. So that means that things would have to be cut. And some of the things that have been mentioned for cutting are some of the things that this committee has worked really hard to get put into the budget over the past few years, such as transportation for late buses, such as Sally, such as supporting the wellness of teachers for things like that, a lot of equity-focused initiatives. I mean, there are a lot of, there have been some other suggestions also, but I just wanted to make sure the committee was aware of, where the budget process was and what types of things. That doesn't mean that those are the things that are going to be cut, because there are certainly cuts that can be made in other areas as well, but that is currently where the conversations are. Erin, anything you want to add?
No, I think the list of, the administration presented to the school committee a list of items that were preliminary, like that they looked at of how to get to that 600 number. That's kind of what Jen's referring to. I think you know, as a member of the school committee, like, we're obviously gonna try to advocate for other items to be looked at, but really, hopefully, we'll be able to work with the town just to fund everything, because we've already made a lot of concessions, for things that we need, like school psychologists, social workers, different positions at the schools, et cetera, that are already out, and so, hopefully, we'll be able to figure out a solution without having to take away things for students.
So do we, what was the rationale for the town council to fund at a lower level than the school committee requested?
I believe that their line of thinking was that their overall budget increased by, I think it was 3.64% on the town municipal side, and so they didn't feel it was appropriate to increase our funding by a number that was different than that. So taking $110,000, that kept it at that
Same percentage increase.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay, so that's that. The town has a meeting again on Monday the 28th where they will be voting to finalize the budget. Depending on what happens there, the school committee will have to work with the administration. All the town council is able to do is give us a lump sum number. They don't get to tell us what to do with the money, they just give us the money. So any cuts that would have to be made would be something that the school committee would work with the administration on after the fact, because we have to have a balanced budget. Okay. Next was update discussion on March PD and future opportunities. Sally?
So the March PD went really smoothly. People had signed up to learn about different topics and they all went to their spaces, had their conversations. They all seemed to demonstrate an understanding of what culturally responsive practices are in our exit ticket. The feedback though was like not quite as favorable as I was hoping for in terms of the format or structure of the afternoon. The majority of the people appreciated the content, but as far as the breakout sessions and those being more self or group guided than led by an expert, that was not their preference, it turned out. We thought that we were kind of in line with adult learning theory and that people would appreciate the opportunity to like hold more discussion around the topics in smaller groups. In fact, like we thought that we were responding to the feedback from last March, which was to have small group discussions around these topics. But yeah, I mean, I think it was about half or maybe 40-something% found that they did give us the feedback that they might have preferred to have an expert facilitating their workshop as opposed to just a playlist or an agenda to follow and be self-driven that way. So we're taking that very much to heart, and I think our reflection on it all is that maybe we should have reined in the number of possible workshops and topics so that there could have been facilitators in every room. We ended up with 20-odd topics and workshops, and so that's why we didn't have the capacity to have experts or facilitators in every room. In fact, I think it was something like 32 concurrent workshops. But in general, I mean, we also got a lot of positive feedback, so trying to focus on that too, about the fact that they were given a lot of autonomy and that the content was valuable. And so that's kind of the general reflection on the afternoon of the PD day. I don't have as much information about the morning because I haven't looked over the feedback on the morning, but that was the response to the afternoon. So next steps, we have some asynchronous resources that we want to put out to staff. I can send copies of this around so you can get a sense. They're mostly webinars. Most of them are completely asynchronous and recorded webinars posted online. but a few of them are providers where you can do synchronous online learning about these topics. This is a draft, but it's pretty close to done. What we're working on now is figuring out how we'll communicate that these are professional learning opportunities, and then also how we'll coordinate the allocating PLUs to the staff members who do complete these tasks. PLUs are professional learning units, so in order to maintain your certificate as an educator, you do need to accrue a certain amount of professional learning units, and so that's the piece that we're still figuring out, because these would be very much like potentially watched at home. Some of them give you a certificate at the end to show that you did complete the webinar, others don't, and so we're asking instead for a synopsis of your learning. And then it would be either on me or potentially Kim Ramos, who's our tech coach and MLL coach for the district, to award the PLUs to the staff member who completes one of these webinars. So this is something that we're working on as kind of an opportunity to continue your learning about culturally responsive practice. I also have a list of local PD providers who I think would be affordable if we wanted to provide more PD with experts like the staff asked for in the future in this area. And then the final kind of prong would be we're planning, actually we've asked Dr. Kayon Murray Johnson, who ran the PD in March 24. She was a speaker to all staff. She is coming back sort of as a consultant or co-facilitator for 2 workshops that we're gonna run in early June with approximately 20 people. What we're hoping to get is pairs from each building. So maybe an administrator, maybe a teacher from each building who are kind of volunteering to be equity leaders in their various buildings. Excuse me. And so they'll come and participate. What we'll do is we'll kind of start with like dreaming up what equity would look like in their buildings, and then from there we'll start to map out goals and action steps that they can then help kind of facilitate and execute really in their various buildings, hopefully with my assistance. And so I think it'll be really nice to have Kayon's input, because she really is like a DEI specialist. I have more like K-12 experience, and she has even more experience in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion training. So I'm excited. She's on board. We just have to nail down her schedule for the dates in June, and then we'll do some of the planning. But we've already met to kind of go over a loose agenda and goals for those 2 workshops with approximately 20 staff members. So that's where we're at with professional learning.
Awesome, thank you.
How many,
Okay.
how many faculty and administrators participate in the professional development days?
Everybody.
So what's that number like?
So the number that we were working with for the afternoon on March 28th was like 600
Oh, okay.
ish.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and we had really strong participation. I mean, staff have the option to call out sick that day, but other than that, you have everybody present and engaged. Good job. Thanks.
It was mentioned during citizens' comments at the meeting last week that the like implicit bias and another one, I can't remember what was mentioned, had low attendance.
Mhm.
And so that kind of concerned me a little bit.
Mhm.
And which kind of goes to, I know we can't mandate it, but like again, like if you're offering 20 things, people may not take the one that isn't
Mhm.
comfortable, especially when it's not facilitated by somebody. I didn't realize that the sessions were not being facilitated.
The hope was that they would be, and
Yeah.
then it just got to be such a large.
I think for our first one though, like, it's interesting data, right? So like,
Yeah.
who went to what was popular, the fact that the staff even said like, hey, it would be helpful to have experts, like, we're trying to create a culture, and so I think you know, you kinda gotta try stuff sometimes and see how it goes, and then, cause if you had facilitators in, they probably would have been like, we wished it was just internal people, you know,
Right.
so you gotta kinda like try stuff out.
Yeah.
But I do think, to your point about like looking at which ones folks didn't go to and maybe trying to figure out the why
Yeah.
that was it just because they were interested in something else, or is that a topic that they were intentionally or unintentionally avoiding because it is something that makes them uncomfortable or makes them, or they don't like feel like that space is a safe space or something. So I think that's where you've got to go if you're trying to get like that not forced moment, but like that buy-in moment.
Right, and I think like I get the trying, and I love the fact that we did this. It's, you know, we've done 2 now
Great.
in a year, which is like we've quadrupled our thing. So I really do appreciate that. I just, you know, I think we've kind of established we don't have a content expert within the district on this stuff. So to expect the people to be able to self-lead in these areas is a little,
They had some guidance though, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they had
It
like
was a
prompts and
very
questions.
detailed, in fact,
It's
now
a
I
lot
wish
of
I
plans
brought
to
one
put together.
one
Yeah.
example for you. But it was a very detailed agenda, or playlist we were calling them, and it used a protocol to examine data that really justified the work. So maybe if the session was on restorative practice, they looked at discipline data that did show we are disproportionately
Yeah.
punishing, like, or using punitive measures against students of color. And so that really hopefully like oriented them around why we're doing this work, and then it went into like, here are some recommended restorative practices, and there were videos or articles for them to read, and then from there they were meant to discuss like how they're going to now apply what they've read or learned. And so to answer your question, it was like quite detailed, but at the same token, I think it depends on who's in the room sometimes, or their background knowledge about the subject, right? And so I understand the feedback that they would have preferred to have a facilitator or an expert, and I'm kicking myself, right, about the fact that there wasn't,
I think,
but
yeah, we've made progress, and I think it's
Yeah.
good, and we'll, like you
Well,
said, take
also-
the feedback and.
40% is not 100%.
yeah, it wasn't
Like, let's be real.
abysmal.
Yeah, no, like you received some important feedback, but you did not receive 98% of the attendees said X, right? And so I do the same thing. I look at the feedback of what I want to improve for next time or whatever,
Right.
but that is not even the majority of feedback that you
Yes.
received. So
Yes.
interesting information, but not abysmal failure
Mhm.
is something important to keep in mind.
One of the
Because
questions.
that's really, that's a lot of work to do 20 playlist, 20
Yeah, 20.
20 playlists for that,
Yeah.
like, that's a lot of
And that's
effort.
information now that you
Yeah.
have and can be
Mhm.
used
Yeah.
in other, like,
Yeah.
situations.
But I do hear you about how it would have been awesome to have more people show interest in implicit bias and participate in that discussion. So, yeah, I think, but to Erin's point, you do wanna
You can meet them where they are.
respect, staff input. So there's a balance there that we have to strike.
It might be the setting too, like maybe it's, like I love that Sally's put together the asynchronous like webinar options. That's a very safe space for
Mhm.
people to learn and explore topics.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if there's I didn't get to look at it quick, but if there's something
There's
on
an
that there,
anti-racist,
people
yeah.
might
Yeah.
Yep,
engage in that, and that's a great first step.
Yeah.
So
yep, absolutely.
we'll get there.
I know.
Yeah, and my hope is to get this out in June sometime. Like, I think these would be great summer activities, learning activities, where you don't even have to leave the beach necessarily, you know,
Do
so,
it at home.
yeah.
For the equity teams for the days in June, if the teachers wanna participate, is there gonna be class coverage for them?
Yes,
Do they know that when they're signing up for it?
yes.
They do.
Yeah, so that was explicit I sent out already like a feeler email, gauging interest. And it did say explicitly that you will have a substitute cover your classes, so
Are ESP members able to do it, or is it just teachers and admins?
that is an interesting question. Like, I would love ESPs
Yeah.
to be present. I used the school distribution list in this initial email to gauge interest, so I assume they're in there. But that's a question I'll ask Chaz,
Yeah.
is whether
There's a couple different lists.
ESPs are within like the QES Quidnesset Elementary distribution list,
Yeah.
or whether I would need to reach out to them separately.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Do you have any questions or
Any
thoughts?
questions?
Are you jealous you didn't get to go? I'm jealous I didn't get to go.
So Rob's not here, so I don't know, do you wanna talk about the equity vision rollout, or do you wanna leave that for Rob? What do you wanna?
I can speak a little bit
Okay,
to
cause
it.
that was kinda covered that day too, also.
Yeah, so we did share the equity vision statement with all staff before they broke out into their rooms, and that was well received. As far as I put it on the website as well. As far as our other ideas about like a plaque, or we haven't really done much else with it besides share it with staff and the website. So I'm curious to get your feedback about what to do potentially with publicizing it next. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I said spend the money. Like there's like before
Yeah,
June
spend it
30th.
Before June 30th,
Yeah.
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 Good call. The other piece is the video. I'm eager to get started on the video. So Sue is not here tonight, but Sue Curley, the school psychologist at Quidnesset, she and I have talked about me potentially visiting tomorrow and making a plan for reading. I think we'll just stick with the elementary kids because the language is a little bit, I feel like DEI specific, right? It's not like as kid friendly maybe as it could be, some of it. But the first line, in the North Kingstown schools, we envision a place where all belong. We were thinking that that is gonna be really easy to share with students and to hear their responses and to ask them some follow-up questions like, what does belonging feel like to you, or what makes you feel like you belong here, et cetera, et cetera. And just start to gather some footage at Quidnesset to start, and then kind of take it from there. I think I'll need to find an ally in each building that will help me kind of gather footage. I would like to work with Mr. McCabe at the high school at some point. I did reach out to him about his thoughts about what kind of tech to use to start gathering some footage that we could use for a fun promotional video. And he said, you can use your iPhone for now. And so, yeah, I'm just gonna start to collaborate with people in each building, I think, around hearing student voice in response to the EVS in the different buildings. So that's kind of in the works. Other parts of the rollout, I feel like we haven't made much progress on yet. Not to say that we won't soon. I wish I could pull up my notes on it because I don't know. What are your thoughts about what other aspects, what other prongs of the rollout you would like to see happen early? This would be helpful feedback for me because I know I can get started on the video soon.
Well, and that's important too while students are here.
Yeah.
We can edit
Right.
stuff and do stuff in the
Right.
summer, but when students are gone,
Right.
getting them now would be important.
Yes. And maybe even pulling up the language, and you guys can maybe help me decide, am I wrong to say that we shouldn't?
Sally, where on the website is it?
So if you go to nksd.net,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I like to just use the search bar on the top right, the search icon, and if you type in mission statement, it's right under the mission statement for the district, which you can also find, let me see.
If
I
you
think
go
by
to
going to-
more and then
Thank
about
you.
us,
Thank you,
and then mission
Talia.
statement.
Nope, too many clicks.
It's a lot, it is a lot of.
I'm already bored.
But
Um,
it is there with our mission and our vision as a district, so it's not removed from, it's not in some separate space than that.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And that's where it should live in perpetuity, forever.
Mhm.
I do think that when you are doing something new, it could be an opportunity to put on the main page.
Mhm.
Yeah, like in the
I'm for it.
slideshow on the main page.
You could do it on the slideshow, or you could do it in the
Or the.
where was it?
So other than it being on the website, it's only been rolled out to faculty and staff?
Yeah.
Okay. So would the next step be rolling it out to students?
Yeah, and so I think it would be helpful to have your feedback. We thought having a video would help with that, right?
Yeah, it's
Like in a
more
way, we
interactive.
could use a video
Yeah.
to share it with students, but maybe we share it with them some other way and then create a video, like,
I was thinking, there's the leadership club at
Mhm.
our school, which I'm a
Mhm.
part of, but I was actually talking to Miss McGuire about this committee
Mhm.
a little bit ago, and she was talking to me about a video that she made years back and how she wanted to like make more
yes,
videos like with
I
like more
spoke to her
diverse
about
students.
that too, yeah.
She told me to like talk about it.
Yeah.
But I could definitely talk to the leadership students and figure out, we could definitely get involved in some way. I know we do like a lot of stuff like with like, at the beginning of the school year with introducing like the 8th graders coming in and open house and like all these different events and stuff.
Mhm.
So we could like present it to the school somehow or like do something like that as well. I feel like it would work pretty well.
I love that idea. Yeah. So orientation form.
I think, like, not letting perfection get in the way of like progress is always something I try to remind myself, and so like, now that the teachers and the admins are aware of it, like asking them to include it in their newsletters, like having a student read it over the loudspeaker one day, like I think you just have to do these like little micro things to start like saying this is, and then you do the video, and then you do whatever tangible we're gonna do. Like I think you just have to kind of jump sometimes.
Yes.
So I would jump in those ways.
Yeah, so our official recommendation
Yep.
was, the school committee should encourage and support the creation of a web presence, a promotional video, email communications, branded stickers, and a creative competition with awards. And then we also had like a whole running list of like ideas, kind of like what Erin just said, so I just dinged you in
I
that.
did too, yeah.
Thank you.
One item that we mentioned at the last meeting was bringing this up at the next CLAC meeting, which is scheduled for the 30th, so that's a week from tonight. And a week and a half ago, I guess it was, I requested to Rachel Santa that be included on the agenda.
Thank
So
you.
I don't know if there are specifics that I should be discussing with it, or just sharing the statement with the group. Erin, will you be at that meeting?
Very likely.
Okay.
I don't want 100%. I gotta look at the calendar.
Okay.
But it should be on my calendar.
That's great, Mary.
You said it's the 30th?
Yes,
Yeah, I'll be there.
Wednesday the 30th, I believe it's at 6:45. Here, right? Yeah, here.
Usually. It was $3,000, right, Jen?
Mhm.
So I think that is where I would really, like, I would, all the work that you're doing is great, but like that is
Mhm.
one that I would focus on, cause I know it,
Mhm.
sometimes it's easy to spend $3,000 and sometimes
Yeah.
it's hard to spend $3,000, so,
Yeah, and you saying June 30th, I'm like, oh, yeah.
yeah, it's now.
Good,
You gotta work.
yeah.
It's okay, you can still do
That's
it, I
soon.
guarantee it,
Oh,
but
yeah, I know we
it's-
can spend
yeah,
that.
Yeah, but like if you're getting something personalized or something that is getting shipped from overseas or something that's whatever, it's
Mhm.
now,
Mhm.
to get it
Right.
by the end of school.
Right. So I would never want to just spend that money without first.
What did we said something, right? What was it?
Well, I think we had talked about having it for a possible event in addition to other things, right? Like stickers or merch, for lack of a better term. Plaques were discussed, or banners, or just things like that. Those cost money. So now is when I'm gonna throw it to you guys and say, like, what would you potentially like to see? Any ideas, Victoria or Wells?
Last time, didn't we talk about like a social media rollout? bench
That
one?
too.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But
That's,
that shouldn't
that's-
cost any money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's also like, even if we did it on internal pages, that is almost external, cause like
Mhm.
anything that goes on social media can get shared
Yeah.
externally to the community, so I almost see social media as part of the like external rollout, which I think we said was fall.
Yeah.
We could do stuff too, but like internally, but,
Didn't we talk about doing something where like students, there would be a lot of like student presence, with something like with I Belong,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like
Yes.
that.
having a variety?
Yeah, so I think
I think
we had
that
talked
was
about
what
stickers
Ms.
and,
Curley
or a
said.
pledge, right, or, like some,
Would it be like an assembly kind of
I
thing?
mean, we've got,
Like where we get like all the kids in the school together like during the school day? Or like more like in different like time?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking for like a student rollout. It's usually an assembly, like putting it in the, well, there are no more quarterly checkups this year, but
mm-hmm,
putting it in that, but
mm-hmm.
what's a quarterly checkup?
We have like at the beginning of every quarter there's like a little assembly where
yeah.
they
name
choose the
what-
student of the quarter,
Yeah.
talk about policy changes.
That's good.
Yeah, that was, this is what I had in the notes from that, was put it in the spine, where does it go, where would it be impactful, where can we put it where it's seen at the elementary levels, we wanna do it verbally and in person over email, introduce it in assembly, make it part of the morning announcements, do a video or after the quote of the week, have it read aloud,
Mm-hmm.
and then we talked about the video with the I Belong, you know, with the picture after picture of all different kids at
Mhm.
all different ages, you know, holding that.
And I guess I wasn't clear, like, are we choosing I Belong, or do we still have, are we still workshopping, like, a tagline of sorts, or?
How's that, I like somehow remember Sue Curley
Mhm.
saying instead of,
Yeah.
I forget what the original wording was, but I think she was pretty clear about the I Belong.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
remember what the
Yep.
original one was.
Yep,
I
She
think we
said
had talked
something
about we versus
on like
I.
on like the NK website with the pictures that go around students holding up I Belong. That's something she talked about,
Okay,
yeah,
so.
alright, so if we're feeling good about that.
yeah.
And it could be, I mean, I think like maybe holding up words, is there a way that, like that could also be like in different languages?
Mm.
Or if anybody uses ASL,
Mm-hmm.
or if there are students who use a communication device,
Mm.
like for the nonverbal students, if they have like an iPad, that can be
That's great.
shown, not just them like looking at the iPad. Because if it just looks like the same old
Right.
kids, there was and I won't, like, I don't wanna critique it, there was another video I saw recently related to North Kingstown. And for lack of a better term, it was very white, and I went,
Mhm.
did somebody like just not look at this with the critical, like, there were a lot of good things about it, but I looked at it and I went,
Yeah.
this is not like, and I know that's a town, it's not a school thing.
I know
But-
exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there have been a few, like, there's been some news coverage lately, and it's tough.
No,
tough,
that's-
because-
it wasn't a school thing, it just.
This
Okay.
wasn't us, this was.
Okay.
So there's a document, it has too many ideas.
Maybe
Probably
so
like
what they-
15 ideas. But we have to give Sally focus. Like we are beyond the spitballing thing. We need to say, hey Sally, the committee
Order
thinks
stickers.
Well, I
or-
thought, honestly, I thought we were already past that, like,
Yeah.
we had,
But what I'm hearing is that
Well,
she wants.
okay.
I don't
feedback.
wanna spend the money in a way that you guys wouldn't want to see it spent, you know what I mean, I'll have to get with Rob about it too.
yeah, like, we kind of left it at
Obviously,
the
but-
school
Yeah.
committee level, that we
Yeah.
authorized the money and left it up to administration
fair.
how to roll
Yeah.
it out.
But what I'm
Sure.
hearing from administration is that they want,
They want.
that are, it circled back to us.
Okay.
It ain't, not in a bad way, but like.
In a way
Sally's
where
saying,
we
like, hey, what
care
do you
about,
think? Yeah.
yeah, what you
Yeah,
guys
they
would
want,
like
they don't
to
want us
see.
to be disappointed by
Right.
what happens.
Okay,
So what
A
would,
gold
what
plaque
would,
versus-
what would like jazzed look like June 19th or 20th or whatever day we get out of school, this thing has happened, what would we be happy, what would look like success for that money in this group size. Why are you giving that look?
I'm just thinking.
Well, I mean, I think if we're spending money, it has to be on merch or swag.
But just to reiterate too, we don't have to spend the money,
Right.
like, we shouldn't spend it just to spend it.
Right.
That was put out there in case it was needed, right?
Yeah.
I just wanna put that
Well, so-
as a disclaimer.
Yeah.
So I think, if I recall when we were talking, the money was for things like printing. It was to order things like stickers, it was for like a banner, if we needed to have a banner, like those were the things that the money was targeted for.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna put it in like stuff like the cafeteria,
Yeah.
stuff where
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of students are,
Yeah.
so it's seen.
I thought Shivali said, and I could be wrong, that the high school could print the
She did say that,
things
Yeah.
for free.
She did, but she said that, like, we need the money, I think I can do it for free, right? Like, so,
Yeah.
like, those were like the two.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll talk to her about what she thinks we can do for free and then
Yeah.
what we may need to
I
pay
do think
for.
some sort of visual in the schools is important. I know Rob's mentioned that,
Yeah.
like, he doesn't just love that, but I do
Right.
think when you're trying to get people to even know something exists, like
Yeah.
having them see it can be helpful. Like, I go to schools all the time and they have things in the bathrooms and they have things, you know, like where students are,
Yep.
so that they see it. And so I do think having something physically visible somewhere in the school matters.
Is there a place to do that in high school, like you could have like a rolling, and maybe that's not the right verbiage, like a tape or something?
Do they have a
Uh,
digital board? I don't
I
think
mean,
they-
there's like
The stock market board.
there's like the Hall of Fame TV that's like
Oh,
right
yep,
outside
yep.
of the door.
Oh,
but
yeah, that, yeah.
So so what you're saying is it's something
it's
where
a
you
TV
could
that just rolls through pictures
yeah,
and stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah,
Like
That's
outside
what
the
I was
library.
thinking.
Outside the
Yeah.
media center.
and that's just at the high school, do they have that at other schools?
I think
Yeah,
it's
Forest
just-
Park has one.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, and when you first walk in, Forest Park has one.
Hmm.
I'm trying to.
That's definitely.
No,
like
Fisher
I've-
Cove has one too.
I feel
Yeah,
like
they all
I've-
have digital
I
boards,
feel
I
like I've
think.
seen one at Hamilton. At some
Yeah, I
point.
think they all have a digital board in
Yeah.
their main areas somewhere.
Okay.
Don't like 100% hold me to that, but I would say I think most do.
I do think it would get
Instead of
taken down
renting.
eventually from that, so that could be part of the initial rollout.
I'm just saying, like,
but then
now to
having
June.
something
Like now to
permanent.
June have something up maybe.
Mhm.
And I don't think it has to be a printed banner like that. Like I think just something that when kids are walking by or students are seeing
Mhm.
it, like they'll see it.
Mhm.
I particularly liked, and maybe this is too much of a lift, like an award for the art contest.
Mhm.
Like I felt like that would be really, I thought that that was such a cool
Mhm.
thing that all students at all levels could participate in.
Yep.
And so I also think it's good to like have some sort of something, whether it's an NK sweatshirt or
Yeah.
whatever, or like some sort of monetary thing, like to award students who participate in things like
Mhm.
that. So
Mhm.
that is something that I think would be cool.
Yep, me
And
too.
also like will help engage students.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like it should be like as interactive as possible in a way so that it's like, it's really like stays in the student's mind, like an art competition.
Mhm.
But another thing was like,
Jen can wear them.
I like the idea of like having I belong around the school instead of the big statement,
Yeah.
cause sometimes it would be hard for like, like if they're passing through the hallway, you can read I belong, but
Yeah.
not the entire statement.
Mhm.
So like short things like that, I feel like could be better.
Maybe with a
But-
QR code, I know you're not supposed
Yeah.
to have phones, but like a QR code to the whole thing.
Mhm.
And it's funny you say that because I was watching a school committee meeting in Charahoe,
Mhm.
and former student after former student got up and said, I can't remember what the words were, but they got up and they said that those values and like the lesson, and they actually mentioned Bob Mitchell, had been drilled into them, like, and it was things like we belong, we matter, like, and, like, so
Yeah.
here were these kids that had come back 10 years later, and they still had those words in their heads, right? And so, like, it
Wait,
was
I know what
really,
he said, I can't,
it was really
he
powerful.
said it every day, but he said it every day.
Yeah, it was really powerful to hear them, like, get up and say that. And so that's kind of what I envisioned, like, you asked what success would look like, that people would know that we had an equity vision statement, and that it meant that everybody, like, I belong, you belong, you belong,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Mhm.
and to remember that 5 years from now? Like, if you think about your
Yeah,
experience
like I feel
here.
like the success would like having students come back in fall and still remembering like
Yeah.
it's like the stuff that
Yeah.
was on the walls, like I belong in that.
I'm down for this. I just always wonder, like, for the students that don't feel like they belong, like,
I know.
what,
Yeah.
like, I have a really hard time with belong, and I have a really hard time with sense of belonging, because I feel like the institution needs to make students feel like they belong instead of students faking the belonging. Like, I get really, like, that word is good, but I feel like if we're all saying I belong, and there's a kid that doesn't feel like they belong, like, that isn't quite what we're saying.
Well,
Like, we're trying to say all belong. Like, that is different than I belong. Because I belong means you're part of the majority.
Yeah.
Like, all belong is what the statement says. All, the word all is the word, not I.
So it's really interesting you say that, because as we were having this discussion, I was kind of thinking along those lines a little bit, and when Kayon and I met for this equity workshop planning, she, I just used the words like NK cares, and she was like, I like that a lot. And I think what we were talking about and what got us to that little phrase is that it's almost on the adults in a way to communicate that we really care about creating an environment where each and every child feels safe and like they belong and included, and so I do kind of wonder about the option of flipping it, not like where they have to say I something, but that we as an institution or town or a school department say that we care, right? I don't know, that's an option to say.
I actually kinda like NK cares though.
The only thing about that is that word isn't anywhere in the equity vision
Right.
statement. That's the only problem.
So, what I'm
But
trying
putting the
to make
onus
it,
more on
I'm
the
trying to make
adults,
it
right?
an acronym.
Okay.
Is that the right word? I don't know, don't tell my English teacher from my school. Like, CARES, so like, this is literally 15 seconds of my brain, so don't hold it, but like, does the C stand for community, does the A stand for,
All.
like another, like I was pulling words out of the
Yeah.
equity statement
Yeah.
that would fit into the word cares.
Yeah.
Or we could pick another word, but the idea is like NK something rather than I something. Because then the onus is not just on the one child who's saying I, but on
The goal is I belong.
the adults,
We are not there.
Right. Yeah. No, that is very true.
the adults and community saying that, we commit to creating this.
What's your sticker say? That's the one for Unified Week. I won't tell Chaz, don't worry.
NK is unified, we all belong.
And that's for, they made that for,
Unified
Unified
Spirit
Week.
Yeah.
we all belong is better than I belong.
The only thing, and I'm just like, you could just as easily say, like, you're telling me we all belong, I don't believe you, right?
Mhm.
Like, so you can make the inverse, whether it's
Yeah.
I or we. Sue made a really compelling argument for I, and I cannot remember what she said,
It
but
was
I
about
told her.
giving, it was about giving ownership, like
Ownership,
to, it was like it was empowerment
Yes,
of the
yeah.
students. And that's what I remember her saying.
Yeah,
And I viciously respect it,
yeah.
but I don't 100% agree with it.
I am less inclined to buy into the institution claiming that they care, just because where we are right now, I think that's a big lift.
I feel like it kinda has the same problem as like if someone's saying I belong and they don't actually feel that way, and then NK cares, they're saying they care, but
They don't.
there are still maybe students who still
Who
feel
feel that they
like
don't.
it,
Right.
I don't know, maybe a tagline is not
The way to go.
the way to go.
Yeah.
Maybe we're trying to force something,
I think the I belong could be interpreted as I belong, like, I feel that I belong. Or I'm letting you know, even though we're not there yet, I do belong.
Yeah.
And we need to work toward that. So I think there's sort of the actual and the aspirational. So I don't know if that was Sue's.
That's kind
I
of
don't
where Sue
remember.
is, like, whether you like it or not, I
Yeah.
belong here, and we're gonna make it work so that we
Yes.
do, yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
So I think that could
Whether
put the
you
onus.
like it or not, I am
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's valid.
Uh-huh.
It's hard though, cause like Sue can't tell every kid the vibe on that though.
Right.
Or she could, we can maybe in the video, but I'm not used to it. So you could have CARES stand for, and again, 30 seconds, creating a like responsive, equitable school. Like you could have it create.
That's actually very good.
It's not bad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the brain is scary in here. But you know what I mean? Like maybe it's like CARE stands for that. Because like I do truly believe that there are people in this community that care for all and that care for equity and that care for diversity. Like I think CARES is an action and I think it's also aspirational, but I don't think that it is a lie. But if you make it something where it's like something like that, then like even if they don't think CARES is the vibe, then it backs it up. It's like we're creating
Yeah.
like the equity vision statement is working towards.
Yeah.
Like the district is trying to like, so you could do something like that. I can make it better with like another 30 minutes, but something like that maybe.
I think that's better because that's not saying, like, that is saying that the district is working to do an action.
It's not the students' fault.
Yeah.
It's our
Right.
fault.
Yeah.
Like the system has created the problems, not the students. Like it's not their job to belong. It's our job to fix it so that they don't even have to think about it.
And that goes to the we commit to developing policies,
Mhm.
practices, and partnerships, which is, what do you guys think?
I also think when you were talking about like having the students read it, like we did try to make it as close to elementary school as possible, which I agree, it's not 100%, I would have changed some words, but maybe there's parts, if we wanted to have the students read it, like there are, like you could progressively move forward, right? So like a middle schooler most certainly could read that
Yes,
sentence.
that was my
like
thinking.
yeah, like a first grader could definitely read the beginning part. You
Yeah.
know, like so you could
Yes.
like build it as
That-
they move forward.
That's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like I think
And we collect different parts
Yeah.
of it from different levels.
yeah, and then maybe an administrator says the asterisk, right? All encompasses. Like I would love like Dr. Duba or someone in leadership like doing that last part of like, hey, when we're saying all in the statement, it's encompasses these things. Like I think that would be really powerful to go from like youngest students in our district, youngest community members to, if Ken's willing, like Kim or me. I was just thinking like up, right? Like it's top, it's everyone.
Yeah, no, I think that's good.
I wonder if there was a way to collect data on how students, faculty, administrators, parents really felt. Like, do you feel as if you belong?
I mean that equity
Yes.
audit we did.
The equity audit we did.
No, I'm sorry, I'm being
No,
funny, but
and
no.
the survey
Survey
works is
works.
supposed to collect that also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Survey works from the state.
Mhm.
Yeah. It has, some of it has stuff like that.
Yeah.
We do not do well
Yeah.
on it.
Personally, from my experience, I had a lot of, there were times that we couldn't complete it because it didn't apply to my child. Like my child
Yes.
was not capable of coming home and letting me know how he felt. Like it was not designed.
I would agree that it is
And so instead of like, if you have a child who has a disability or intellectual disability, it was not structured so that like skip to this question. And it felt, I just remember doing this and just bear with me, cause this is part of why I'm here, because of my years of experience with so many of those things. It would feel more and more alienated, like, okay, my child can't do this, my child can't share this, so did somebody really stop to think about the population in the state of Rhode Island, cause this encompasses everybody, and your child's particular situation. So, no, I'd just be curious to see, like, how many people would feel that way, in the district. I know it's just like a one word, like, could you do a survey with one question?
No, and I think things
Yeah.
like that super matter, and I super hear you on that survey, like I think about, and that's why I'm nutty about when people just write parents, and I'm like, no, like every time that you don't write parents and supporters or parents and guardians, like those people are being told that they are not, like, even thought of when they were making this form or when they were whatever, so I think things like that send such an important message about the culture and the community, and I think the surveys work particularly, we don't make it, but we send it, and we have to send it, but it is something that we could advocate for, like, at the state level of saying, hey, like, this is not, like, that's a very valuable thing that Jen's writing it down, that we could work on, you know, cause we do have voice in changing things like that. Cause that's not
Because it's not really accurate data.
No, and
You
it's
know?
not accurate for lots of levels either. Like I remember taking it for Caroline in pre-K, and I was like, this isn't applicable at all to
Mhm.
what we are talking. Like it was questions that I was like, this is not the right assessment whatsoever.
Right.
But it's one of the few data points that we actually have, which is
And it's the one that everybody always points to when you try
Yeah.
to like raise the
Yeah.
conversation, everybody
Mhm.
points to it. Okay, anything else on the equity vision statement?
I was thinking for like bringing it to students, if we do an assembly, like it might work, but I do know that like, I feel like a lot of the times, unless it's like a really interactive assembly, like it just kind of like glazes over students. So like, if we could find a way to make it more interactive and more like student based, whether it's student led or like maybe we do like how we have the pep rally, like something like that where it's like more interactive, like it would definitely be more impactful for students.
Instead of just like sitting in the audience and stuff.
Yeah, like
Watching a slideshow.
sitting in the auditorium
Yeah,
with like
I
the
feel like that might have
policy
the
on the
opposite
screen,
effect.
it's just like,
That we would wanna have, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want each class to come up with the best something, and I will put it on a T-shirt for the winning grade. Like you know, like you got to do something like
Yeah.
like to engage them and
If
get
we
them.
like, yeah, if we do it like out in the football field or like do something like where like we're not just like all just sitting
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
watching.
because I'm not this person, but I know people that will like see something in an assembly and just make it a joke, and like it has the opposite effect, and they'll make more of a joke out of it instead of taking it seriously.
Yep, valid. Good feedback.
When you guys do assemblies, is it everybody in the whole school?
We do usually 2 grades per
Yeah.
assembly, so we'll do the same assembly 2 days and we do like 10th and 12th graders one day and 11th and 8th or 9th graders the other day, just to like fit everyone.
That makes funny.
Okay, awesome, thank you, everybody. And then the next thing is circling back to.
Wait, Sally, did you get what you needed from us?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so. I think honestly, the next step is to talk to Rob and building administrators about, you know, how they see this working in their buildings, and I'll take it from there. And I'll hopefully be able to consult some of you in the process as well, but it's not,
Yeah.
we got
Success
it.
to me would be like, if we ask people on June 30th, do you know we have an equity vision statement, yes
Yeah.
or no? Like 50% would say yes.
Mhm.
Like I know that sounds silly, but like that would be success to me, is
Yeah.
that like half
Yeah.
of our
Mhm.
community is even aware that we have it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then it would be cool by like the next year that almost 100% knows it, and
Yeah.
then it'd be cool if they actually know what it said, or like actually,
Mhm.
like no, I'm just saying, I know that sounds silly, but
Yeah, and one other thing I'm hearing from you, I just wanna make sure I'm hearing it right, is that like the order of operations maybe doesn't matter so much as just like,
just throw it on the wall.
Yeah.
Something, because people are
Yeah,
gonna
just,
grasp
like,
it
get
in
it
different
out there.
ways. Like some
Right,
people read
yeah.
the emails, some
So
people
if-
will see it on the wall,
yeah,
some
so
people.
if the art
yeah.
contest goes out first,
Yeah,
that's okay, you know, okay.
yeah, and I would say like in as many ways as possible, cause
Right.
some people don't read their emails, some
Right.
people read it one week and don't read it another, right? And
Mhm.
I definitely think moving it on the website, like, so that people see it when they, instead, cause who's gonna look for it if you don't know it's there?
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. So next is to go back to discussions on an accessibility, inclusion review for the district. We talked briefly about this at, another meeting, and I can't remember where we left it. Mary, do you remember where we left it?
I think we had put together a list
We did
of,
put together a
of the
list,
things
yeah.
that, like, potentially
Yep,
we would be looking at, like, all of the and it would apply to all of the buildings.
Yep.
So it would be from starting within the parking lot,
yep,
accessibility.
and we had walked through all that,
Yeah.
and then were we going to talk to see, like, how, I can't remember where we left it.
I thought we were gonna circle back with CLAC, but we have not met
Okay,
since.
You know, this might be a good meeting to bring it up because there's no, speaker.
okay.
Yeah.
And what they're doing with CLAC, I don't know if you guys are aware, with CLEC, so it's the North Kingstown Special Education Local Advisory Committee. And it's pretty much, this is around the country. If districts are accepting federal dollars for special education, they have to have an active local advisory committee called a LAC. And so that can vary across the state, different, like the acronym that they use. So during the months when there is no meeting, they're having these informal coffee meetings. And the parents, they were saying that they really would like a meeting, like just to have a discussion as opposed to having a speaker. So that would be the meeting next week.
Okay.
So, I'd be happy to bring it up and see what, and, cause parents might, since I'm not really in the buildings anymore, would say like, what is your impression? Like are there obstacles, or is there something that you're finding is like really making it very smooth to get around?
Is there like I know there's the Governor's Commission on, Disability, and I know like they have like minimum guidelines, right? But like, is there, like in my mind when we talk about this, we're saying like we wanna look at each of our buildings and we wanna see, like the checklist was like, bathrooms, parking spots, and it was a few other things. And also it was accessibility and inclusion, like what do we see on the walls? Like who are there pictures of? Like what languages are things in, what do we, when you go to a event, like, is there, are things available for people who speak a different language? Are things accessible for people who are coming, right? And
You're
so,
talking about like a best practice like audit
yes,
thing?
yeah, and like, so I'm wondering, one, like, is there a best practice that we can kind of base ours on? And if there's not, like, I think we came up with some pretty good, starting points. And then we also had we talked about the difference between accessibility and friendly, because something might be accessible, but that does not mean that it is.
Yeah, I do think when I was looking at the work that we were currently doing in the buildings, like when I took Mary's list and I compared it to what was in our CIP, which is the capital improvement plan, like there were some areas that like we were definitely focusing on in a good way. So like exterior ramps was like an example that I saw 3 or 4 different schools, there was improvements in that area. But then there were other areas that Mary had brought up that we did not have, like things that we were actively working on in those areas, like parking I think was one of them maybe. And so, I think it's figuring out like kind of what you're saying, but also saying like, okay, like what are the challenges in this area, and then making sure that the administration is aware of them. So like, understanding that like, our parking spots are really difficult for people who have lifts in their vans because they're really close together, and then you have to go, they're not near the ramps. Or like I was in a meeting at my real job the other day, and they were talking about how like where the accessible parking spots weren't near the shuttle stops, and I was like, well, that's silly, because like they need to get on the shuttle. And so like just thinking through and like looking at those pieces that maybe we aren't actively working on, and seeing if there's opportunities there or things that should be added to the list.
Yes, so how
Yeah.
do we make that happen?
By listening to people, probably. Like I think starting with CLAC and saying, hey, like these are some areas that we want to know if there's any areas of opportunity, and then what are your thoughts, and starting maybe there. I think we would probably get more than we could accomplish in a year in probably listening for 10 minutes.
And then, do you have like one person or a team that kind of goes out to do like a walk through the buildings?
Well, I mean, we have a director of facilities, so like, I mean, but I guess like in my mind, I'm thinking like, these are the things that we would want reviewed, and like, I don't know if like Chris is the right person to walk around the building and say, yes, it's well represented. Like, he would be the right one to go and say, yes, all of our sinks are at, accessibility level, and like, yes, the handicap parking spots are painted correctly. But I'm not sure that like, he's the one to walk around and like, look at like the paintings on the wall and say like,
He could be if you gave him a list. Like are the
Or I'd be happy to
yeah.
go with him to do that part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think
Have a team do that.
you could also have folks do it. I just know how hard it is to tour the buildings. Like it takes a lot of coordination for that, but it's definitely possible. But also if you had, if like you came up with like kind of what the standard is, or like things that want to be observed, then you could send a team of administrators or staff through.
I'd be happy to contact the Governors Commission to see if they have
I
a
don't think
checklist.
they're-
They
don't
used to,
think
I
they're-
know they used to have somebody there who you could contact if there was, say, a business. And I've done this many times, businesses or medical practices where there would just be a parking spot with a wheelchair on it, but no access aisles. And they would have somebody go out to that building, check it out to make sure, in fact, you know, it was not in compliance, and then they would get in touch with the landlord of the building and have them rectified. I don't know if they still have a person in that role, but I'd be happy to contact them and see if they have some type of like checklist for schools.
I bet there is stuff online if we did some digging.
Mhm.
I mean, there's so many good walkthrough tools for like equitable classroom environments, so I'm sure there's something,
So maybe the first
I don't
step
have
is
anything.
finding it.
yeah.
Like that's, maybe that could be our first goal, is finding some resource to use
Mhm.
to help us assess the need.
So Mary, do you wanna talk to CLAC, and then, we can also look at tools, and then we can regroup at the
Mhm.
next meeting?
Yeah.
My
I think that's like a
recommendation,
good step.
Mary, would be to email the chairs and Rachel and ask for it to be put on the agenda. Cause they haven't I don't think they posted the agenda for that meeting yet.
Okay, I'll have them add that.
Yeah, you would want it on as like an agenda item, so that it would be able to be talked about. Feel free to CC me on it if you would like.
Did I CC you in the last? No, I
Do you
didn't.
two see anything
okay,
at
did I?
the, like, high school
To be honest,
specifically that
there's-
pops
there's
to
a
mind
hundreds
in
of
terms
emails.
of like looking at accessibility
I
or
can look,
inclusion,
but it's okay if you
things like
didn't.
that?
Oh, I did, no, I
Oh,
did,
good.
yeah, it's April 11th, yeah.
Well, the elevator,
Yeah,
well,
I
I
was
know,
gonna say the elevator's like so horrifying to get into.
it's scary, it's
Really?
like,
At the high
it's
school
like,
too?
Yeah.
I don't know, it's in a, it's like right next to the spine, but it's just like, kind of like weird lights and like, a lot of kids go in there
Never
and
come
do
back,
dubious
or-
behavior.
Yeah, like-
There isn't a key?
No.
You
No.
can just
There's
go
no
in
key?
there.
Like you can just go
Oh,
into the
nice.
elevator.
Really?
And they've like, there's like crazy, like if they catch you and they're like, it's like really bad, like you get penalized or whatever. But the kids will still go in there quite a lot.
I didn't know
Yeah.
there wasn't a key.
And it's like,
Isn't that interesting?
it's
Yeah.
like,
I was
it's
surprised
scary to
by
get
that.
into, and it's also fairly far away from all the doors. So like
Yeah.
if you're trying to get to the elevator, you have to walk a long way, and
Mm.
there's like one hallway or like one side of the building where there are like no classes. So, and that's the side that the elevator is on, so you're
Mhm.
going all the way around to get to other classes.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is like really good information that would be helpful to the building subcommittee in, making capital improvements and also building the new
Yes,
Wickford Middle
yes,
School.
100% for the new middle school,
Because
for
I,
sure,
like,
yeah.
I can get up there and I can
Yes.
speak as an experienced mom
Mhm.
and talk about how long it took my son to get to class and why he was missing because the elevator was located so far away. But that's really helpful to hear
Yeah.
from you guys.
It's weird to think that in every single building that was built, and I get that this was like a long time ago, that like they didn't think to put the elevator like near any of the classrooms. Like you would think that would just be like basic common sense.
It's not that simple, I don't think. Like I'm thinking about the buildings that we built and like, there's a lot of things that you need to be able to have an elevator in certain spots.
It's just weird.
Yeah. It's not great.
I think it just, it points to the importance of inclusion, like including people in the discussion, the
Mhm.
people who are most directly impacted by a policy or infrastructure, whatever it is. Is this going to work for you?
Right.
And fortunately, we know more now, and hopefully, next time around,
We do
especially with the
better.
new middle school,
Yes, but
that will, yeah, it will be different. Oh, speaking of accessibility, was it at the CLAC meeting, do we know if the preschool is going to be at Davisville Academy?
It
building?
is.
So that would be another accessibility opportunity
Okay,
for the playground. Do
Yep.
we know what, so in other words, they don't just put in a playground, and like Erin said, I can't believe they didn't think
no,
about this.
I think there's actually like either a law or a policy that any playground that goes in has to be accessible.
So that can be interpreted though different ways.
Okay,
So that was my experience when the one was in Fishing Cove. And I had to go to these meetings and say, you really can't push a wheelchair through wood chips. You need to have a rubber surface.
Yep.
But it was sort of like an after the fact, like a little pathway was sort of put in. So do we know if, like, is somebody looking at that preschool?
well, we literally just made the vote last week, so
Okay.
there will be a playground, but I don't think they've started like speccing it out
It
or anything
is
like that.
expensive enough that it will come to the school committee.
Yeah,
Like, we'll see the
Yeah.
plans for it, and we can also, talk to the director of
Yeah.
facilities via the superintendent.
yeah, but that's also something you can come to citizens' comments or email
On
us
the,
about.
at the school
Yeah,
committee?
it doesn't even have to be on the agenda, you
Yeah.
can just come and say, you know, when you're considering the playground,
Oh, yeah.
you know, please consider, and you can email us also.
So, just quick aside, so if something is not on the agenda, you can still,
Oh, 100%.
okay.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
not a
yeah.
problem.
Talk about
I
whatever
You can
thought
talk
I
about
heard some-
whatever you want.
See, I thought I heard something recently that it had to be on the agenda.
Some
Okay.
places do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we
But-
don't, yeah.
No, you can
No.
talk about anything.
Believe me, you won't be the only one talking about stuff that's not on the agenda.
So when's the next meeting, Jen?
May 6th.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions, comments, anything?
Oh, well,
Oh, the survey.
yeah,
Yes.
was it approved?
It was tabled because we had a marathon meeting because of the budget, so we didn't get a chance to discuss it.
Okay,
And it is on our agenda for the 6th,
okay,
yes.
alright, I was just wondering.
Yes, I did, I skipped that one, I'm sorry. Yes, so we put the request in, it is on the agenda, and hopefully we will be voting on it on the 6th,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, all right, I will make a motion to adjourn if nobody has anything else.
I'll second.
Okay.
Next meeting's the 21st.
23rd, 21st?
The
20 I have
agenda says
21st.
21st.
20,